What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Better Basics podcast. Dylan, by the time that people are listening to this, hopefully the election will be over. As we are sitting here recording on Tuesday evening, we are in the thick of that, and it feels really nice to be able to step away from things and disconnect for a little while here.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I hope. I hope
Hope,
that by
yeah.
the time people are listening to this, we've got some conclusion to this. I'm just happy that I just minutes ago got a political call, and the polls are closed or close to closed here in
No, in
Wisconsin.
Wisconsin,
So
they're closed.
they're closed. So,
Yeah.
um, what the fuck? Like, I am very ready for that shit to stop. If I get one more piece of mail, I am gonna lose my mind.
My girlfriend Tay, she got a text from Brett Favre a couple days ago, and then just an hour ago, or just before polls closed, got a text from Joe Biden himself.
Joe?
Yeah, yeah.
Surprised he's
Um,
awake.
yeah, so they're busting out all the big guns to make sure that they secure her vote. But yeah, I'm stoked to be able to watch football on Sunday and not have to mute it during
Yes.
all the commercials for those political ads. And we appreciate everybody listening because I'm sure you guys are all in the same boat. Dylan, before we get started, I'd like to update the people. I'd like to update you. I didn't even give you an update as to how the trail run went this weekend.
I'd love to hear. Yeah, you made it out of the woods, obviously. You're here with us
Well,
tonight.
I mean, the thing is, when you start in the back of the pack, it's really easy to just follow people. I will
Yep.
say, so it was a beautiful day. There was a 14K, which is what I did, and then there was a 30K. And right at like the halfway mark for the 14K is when the routes split. And I was, I was talking to some people along the way. I got a little distracted. And so I did briefly start running down the 30K path before somebody very nicely pointed me in
Oh
the right
man.
direction, because that would have been a problem. But the 14K that I did was awesome. I was really happy with it. I was like just under 1040 a mile was my time, which I felt was a pretty good accomplishment. And the best part was that I had a negative split on it. So my slowest miles were my first couple miles, and I got gradually faster throughout the whole thing. We're going to do a podcast on this topic a little bit more completely later. But I did it all in my barefoot shoes.
Wow.
Which is killer. So it was a really good experience. I was happy I did it. Bummed that you couldn't make it, but it sounded like you had a pretty good weekend.
Yeah, maybe next year. Um, what did I do this weekend?
Well, you went to a concert, didn't you?
Oh yeah, dude. I clearly had a little too much to drink. Yeah, we went down to Chicago. We saw Nathaniel Rateliff in the Night Sweats with Gregory Alan Isakov. I'm a huge Gregory Alan Isakov fan. I've seen him in very small rooms, like 200 people, 6, 7 years ago, 8 years ago. And this was the United Center in Chicago. And he sounded better than I've ever heard him. I couldn't believe it. Like in this arena, it was amazing. And we went to eat at Rosemary, which is Joe Flam. Joe Flam. He was a Top Chef winner.
Okay.
His restaurant down in Chicago. I fucking hate Chicago. I've always hated it.
You
Um,
do hate Chicago.
and I grew to really like it. This little West Loop area was very nice, quieter, a lot of really good restaurants, good places for drinks, and yeah, we had a good time. But I had a hangover. I just maybe on the back end of that now. So um,
Well, I'm glad that you're finally recovering from that. But
yeah, man.
yeah, well, let's dig into it. For the hot topic today, we got something. Found a little something, an article from today that I is near and dear to my heart. Something I'm very excited to talk about. It is titled "Is Sparkling Water Just as Hydrating as Still?" Dietitians break down the health differences. Before we get into that, I have an embarrassing confession to make. When you and I were when we went to Europe with our friend Dave, however many years ago that was.
2018.
Um, yeah, okay. I noticed on some of the menus that they would have, like just still, it'd be like still and then like $2 or whatever it was. It took me until I think Budapest, which was the very last leg of the trip, until I figured out what what still actually was. It's still water, guys. It is water without bubbles, and so that's what this article was breaking down. Is sparkling water just as hydrating as still water?
Yeah, the Europeans love their sparkling water. We learned that pretty quickly. I've got a friend, you know Nate. Um,
Oh yeah,
and for a while he owned a duplex and Courtney and I lived in the lower of that duplex. And every time I take out the recycling, there were so many cans of LaCroix in the recycling bin. So I asked him one day, and he estimated he went through about a 12 pack of LaCroix a day. Like
a day.
he didn't drink still water. Like he just hammered sparkling water all day long.
Yeah.
So and I didn't really look into the answer to this question. This is new information to me. I've actually been quite curious. Like, is it as hydrating? I think I always assumed it's still H2O. So it should be. But
Yeah.
I think this article kind of gets into it and talks about some of the pros and cons of each. But I think generally the takeaway is, yeah, I mean, sparkling water is still water, and it's not still water, it's still water.
It is still water,
Um,
not still water.
right,
But
and
yeah,
it can be hydrating.
exactly. It's hydrating. It sure is. Yeah, I mean, that's what I guess research shows that they both contain the same base H2O, which is water, and that's the essential component for hydration. So, now, Dylan, when I was reading this article, I learned a little something. Um, did you know before? Well, I probably not, but I learned that there are natural sparkling water springs where you can get sparkling water straight from the ground.
Yeah, I think San Pellegrino is like a natural
So
spring sparkling
I
water.
looked into it. Pellegrino is not.
Oh, it's
Uh,
not.
um, Harrier, they get the water from the spring, but then they add some more along the way, and same with Topo Chico. They and they all come from natural springs, but then they add
Carbon
more
dioxide.
CO2
Yeah,
on the back end.
yeah.
But yeah, so I guess yeah, there's something to that. I would love to get my hand like I would love to get my mouth on just one of these natural springs. Just get some bubbly water straight from the source.
Yeah, I try to stay away from bottled water because of the microplastic concerns, and we've talked about environmental exposures and these things. They sit on trucks, they're in the sun, they're in the heat. That
Yeah,
shit's leaching into that water. But if I am choosing the convenience of a bottled water, I always look for a spring water versus something else because spring water will typically have minerals in them that are good for you, whereas like the majority of bottled water in the US especially is really just tap water that they're putting in a bottle and selling to you. And that could have some minerals added in some cases, but pretty typically a spring water is going to have some minerals in it already. So yeah, I mean it's kind of cool. I did always wonder how Nate wasn't the gassiest man alive. Like that's a shitload of carbon dioxide to be consuming. So, I think probably in moderation for most people. Otherwise, you might start to get a bit gassy, but
yeah.
if it worked for him, so be it.
Well, yeah, and that's kind of the thing, right? If you are, I mean, where these seltzers and bubbly waters have a ton of value is if you're somebody that is struggling getting enough water throughout the day because you don't like it, or it's just not, just doesn't, regular water's not doing it for you, you have a hard time hitting those numbers. That can be a really good way to you know to get that water number up. It's also a great alternative to to sodas. Because we know there are so many downsides to to those sugary delicious bastards. But it's one of those things where it really, it doesn't seem like, if you can tolerate it, there's a ton of downside. One thing that they did mention in the article, and I've heard before, is the the CO2 does make the water a little bit more acidic, I think, and so it might just have like an effect on your enamel over time
Yeah,
if
your teeth.
you drink a shitload of it. Um, and so actually one of the things that I was reading was what they recommend doing is after you finish your seltzer waters, just have a little palate cleanser of the still stuff, which I don't think I'm going to be mixing that into my routine. But it just, I guess, something to be on the lookout for if you are an exclusive seltzer drinker. Just make sure that I don't know, you're doing something good for your teeth.
I was having a chuckle here because I remembered seeing this, this like these like joke LaCroix flavors one time, so I looked them up, and it's fucking hilarious. LaCroix new flavors transported in a truck near bananas is one flavor.
Yeah.
Hint of lime. Single Skittle dissolved in water.
Like,
Shy watermelon.
oh,
And imagine like a strawberry but with a low battery. Oh, I get a
that's the
kick out of
best
that.
one. I like a watermelon, and that strawberry one. That's freaking hilarious, man.
Yeah.
All right, so I guess the moral of the story here is, if you like sparkling waters, keep going, buddy. You're doing great. And if you drink sodas, maybe swap it out for a sparkling. It'll help you stay more hydrated.
You bet.
Cool. All right. Let's transition to the next topic. It's worth it. This one, it comes from me today. Dylan, I shared with you a while back. I got my hands on these Angles 90 grips. And basically, all they are is like fancy D handles. Like if you go to any cable machine, the D handle is just like the basic, it's the handle that you see on most cable attachments. These ones, what is nice about them is, instead of having like a clip on the end or like a ring on the end, is they just have a loop. So what they're really meant for, is for pull-ups. So you can attach them to a pull-up bar, and then you have a nice, like neutral grip pull-up bar that you can use, and then you can also attach it to barbells for rows. They have all these, like any of these products, where they're trying to come up with 10 different uses for them, so they have all these different ways that you can adjust the handles for like a power grip, and like this and that. And really, I don't even feel the need to play around with all that stuff too much, but I do think there is a ton of value. I'm loving using them for pull-ups because I absolutely love being able to rotate my hand in the pull-up motion. I think that it can be a really unnatural and like challenging position for a lot of people, and being able to just provide my wrist and elbow and shoulder with a little bit more like freedom of movement, it's been really, really nice. One thing that I didn't expect to enjoy it as much with is I've been attaching it to a barbell for when I do like heavy bent over rows,
Hmm.
and I'm really liking the range of motion on that. So they've been working for me so far. Have you messed around with anything like this before?
No, I guess my initial thought would be it would put a lot less uh, uncomfortable pressure tension on the wrist. So
Exactly.
like sometimes with a pull up, so getting into that neutral position, I could see how that could have some advantage. Does the neutral grip in the pull up work the muscles any differently than if you're doing an overhand grip? Because
Yeah.
if you're doing a chin up where you're sort of in the reverse position,
Hmm.
that'll work the biceps a bit more than if you're in um, the overhand grip position. So I'm just curious, when you're in that neutral position, what does that mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I don't think, I mean, it's one of those things that I haven't done it enough and haven't really put too much research into it to know exactly how it's changing the, like the muscle stimulation. There's got to be some effect to it. But the way that I look at it is, if I'm able to, or if a client is able to comfortably do an exercise, then whatever like muscle biases that might occur because of that are ultimately going to be net positive, because they're going to be able to do the exercise better. They're going to enjoy the exercise more. They're going to be able to do more reps of it, and they're ultimately going to become stronger because of it. So I'm sure there is some change in muscle stimulation, but I feel like the the comfort of the grip probably like makes it more of a positive than a negative for me.
Yeah, so that's really just in the margins. Like if
I
you're
would
not
think so.
if you're not a bodybuilder, it's not really going to matter.
Probably. Now, here's the deal. There are probably a ton of different straps like this out there. I went with these Angles 90 because of Target ads on Instagram. One thing that I do really like about them is they're built pretty sturdy. They say that each strap is rated for 400 pounds. So you would be able to do up to an 800-pound deadlift if you were using both straps. So they're pretty durable. And I'm on their website right now. I got them for 24.99, $25, plus a little bit of shipping. And it's one of those things where it says they're 50% off, 54% off. They're originally $54. I feel like this is probably one of those like perpetual sale products that, it's always on sale. For $25, I think it's absolutely worth it. I would not pay. I probably wouldn't even pay $5 more for it. But I think for if you're paying $25, I would put this in the worth it category. Now, one funny thing about this Angles 90 website is, man, they sell you on the cheap grips, and then they have so many other like things to go along with it. Just they tried to upsell me on Epsom salt, like bath soaks, like when I was buying the buying the grips. They're like, well, hey, if you think we make good grips, we also do dabble in Epsom salts, so be sure to check it out. So I don't know too much about the validity of the company or any of the other products that they do offer. But like I said, for $25, I will give the Angles 90 grips a worth it.
I like it. I'll have to get my
Oh,
hands on some and give it a try.
yeah, sounds good. All right, sweet. Let's transition to the main topic of the day. We thought that in the spirit of it being election night here as we're recording, we thought it'd be fun to have a little spirited debate for for the listeners. So, Dylan, why don't you talk about what we're going to do today in a little bit more depth?
Yeah, this is our election episode, and we're not going to talk about the election at all, but we're, in the spirit of the election, going to debate a few topics, come to some conclusion at the end, and maybe offer some exit polling data on where we stand. Like on a scale of 100% of the vote, where do we land on each topic to give you an idea of maybe what our general conclusion is on the this or that. I think
Yeah,
listen to the podcast before, you know that we're not really this or that people. We're very much about nuance. And so we're going to argue opposite sides of these. We're going to give you the key points. But at the end of it, we'll kind of come to a conclusion and agree on where we stand generally.
sweet. I like it. All right. So for topic number one, strength training versus cardio. We're just going to flip flop. Who gets the first topic? Dylan, as the visitor here, I'm going to give you strength training. I'll argue cardio. Are you okay with that?
Let's go.
All right. Why don't you start us off then?
All right, Matt. Well, and the people. Um, I really feel that strength training is the superior exercise modality to cardio for a few different reasons. The first of which is I think most people don't do enough of it. So I think most people, when they think of getting in shape or wanting to do exercise, the lowest barrier to entry, the thing that they frequently turn to, is lacing up the running shoes and doing some steady state cardio. So I think the novelty in that is really important and offers real opportunity for the majority of people. And with that comes the opportunity to build muscle, to get strong, to increase your bone density, all of which is important for weight loss, weight maintenance, but also just general long-term health. It's going to increase your metabolism. It's going to make you more functional, more flexible. Things that are really important as you age and want to be able to move around and be strong in different planes of movement. And I think that the weight loss factor and the weight maintenance factor is really key. By building muscle, um, you're sort of setting a baseline for more sustainable weight loss and weight loss maintenance over time. By increasing your lean muscle mass, you're essentially changing the way that your body requires calories, because muscle is expensive, and therefore you will require more calories on a day-to-day basis as you go through life to maintain that muscle. And so therefore I think while most people might associate cardio as the optimal training modality to lose weight, that really consistent strength training over the long term, building muscle, is a much more effective strategy.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I wouldn't expect anything less from a meathead like you. Uh, so as far as cardio goes, I think the reason why it is so dang important is because of that ease, where you don't need any gym memberships, you don't need any fancy training equipment. Cardio is one of those things that you don't even really need a pair of shoes for it if you don't want. It is the easiest way that you can get into shape. Uh, and when we think about why people are getting into shape, obviously they want to look better. And if we're talking aesthetics, then clearly strength training is going to mop the floor here. But if we're talking about longevity, there is so much benefit from regular cardio practice. It improves cardiovascular health, which obviously we know is essential to heart disease prevention. It is such an efficient calorie burner, which, as far as like short term weight loss goals are concerned, it can be very, very effective. But one of the reasons why I personally am a huge cardio guy is because of that quote unquote runner's high, the mood boosting, the mental well being, that endorphin release that you get from a good cardio session. Really, really is tough to match. So I think from a longevity perspective, from just like a day to day feeling good perspective, cardio is such an important aspect for anybody's training routine.
Valid points, Matt. The only pushback I would give is I think you can get some of that endorphin, good feeling rush from a good strength training session as well.
Yeah, Dylan, I'm not going to
But
argue with you there because obviously, if you've listened to this podcast before, you understand that how we both feel about strength training versus cardio. And so, if we were going to do some exit polling here, I don't I would have to give you the win on that one. Now, when we think about like an optimal, so like if we're doing like exit polling here, we're like an optimal balance for the two. Like, what do we think? I mean, if I don't think I think 50-50 probably is too much, is more cardio than necessary. I'm not going to say too much because if you like it, do it. But what do you think? Is that like a 60-40, 70-30?
I think some of it depends on your baseline and your goal. But I think the majority of people that are doing nothing right now would probably benefit from more of that 70-30 split where
Strength
um,
training versus cardio.
strength training to cardio
Yeah.
because there's so much opportunity in that strength training and the health benefits are so significant and strength training is the benefits that come from strength training take longer to realize. So you have to be consistent at it for a good period of time. Whereas cardio, especially like um, high intensity cardio, when we're talking about like VO2 max, that can be achieved very quickly. You can increase your VO2 max, which is an important longevity indicator, in like a couple weeks time just by doing it consistently, and it doesn't really require, it's like a session a week. So
Well, yeah. Then
um
when we talked about the Norwegian 4x4, right? You
yeah,
remember that
yep,
one? That
yep, the
thing
daily.
is like, yeah. What? It's the only known cardio routine that you can do once a week to improve your VO2 max. So I
Yeah,
mean, if you if you wanted to, you could go all the way into like that 95-5 strength training to cardio and still have cardiovascular improvements,
yeah,
and
you
that's
could.
where, yeah, I mean, I
I
do
think you
think
still
that
you still probably want to throw in some steady state stuff as
totally,
well for
yeah,
maximum
that's
cardio
true.
benefit. But yeah, probably 3 out of every 4 days for me is a strength train versus a cardio day. So
Yeah.
and higher up strength training is going to come with some cardiovascular benefit as well.
Yeah, definitely. All right, let's move on to the next topic. This is a fun one. This is machines versus free weights. I'm gonna to take the side of machines here.
Mhm.
Um, so where I think machines have a ton of value, one, just as far as beginners are concerned, if you're trying to get somebody to safely exercise in the gym, putting them on a machine is going to be a heck of a lot safer than, putting them underneath a barbell or just showing them where the dumbbells are. So, one, I think there's a huge safety learning curve when it comes to free weights versus machines. But in trained athletes, I think that it's a really great muscle building tool. Like, as far as just hypertrophy goes, it is so great to be able to go all the way up to failure to really realize those gains, and it's tough to do that with free weights or any other, like, barbells, where with those machines, because of the external support, because if you when you do fail on a machine, there are these guardrails, you're able to get an incredible pump. So, I think that as far as like a hypertrophy tool, it's really it's great to use. But then you also just got to think about how easy it is, going into the gym and just being able to go from, all right, we're going to go hamstring curls, leg extensions, over to the chest press, chest fly, rows. You can get an easy workout in without having to put a whole lot of thought into it. So, I think that there is a ton of value with these machines, and I'm interested to see how you are going to defend free weights after such an eloquent argument.
Yeah, they're good points. I think free weights are far superior. I think machines have their place, but free weights, even as a beginner, with a safe amount of weight, are going to offer so much more functional benefit. When you're using those machines and you're in that fixed implement position where it's really controlling the pattern of movement versus having to use and engage your stabilizing muscles to achieve a movement pattern, there's so much more benefit in that, in my opinion. So I really like free weights for that reason. They're much more versatile. They allow for a significantly greater range of motion. You can, with a chest press, for example, get really deep in the stretch with that. And many of the chest focused machines aren't going to offer you that benefit. And it's really just more applicable to real world strength, like the way that we move weight around in our daily life. You can go typically go heavier, and I think they're typically more accessible for people, especially people that have home gym setups. You can get some adjustable dumbbells, you can get a barbell and a few plates, and really achieve a convenient workout in that way, which is what I do. So while I see a real role for the machines, I think that free weights, the majority of the time, should win.
Well, Dylan, once again, I feel like you've bested me. Free weights certainly are. I mean, if you have looked at any of the programs that we've written, or just listen to this podcast, you understand how the value of that we place on free weights. But with that said, I think that they're mixing in a nice balance. If you're in the gym, if you're putting together your own program, if you're in the gym 3 days a week, and you've got 2 days where you're using dumbbells, using barbells, by having that third day where you are switching over to the machines, or just mixing in machines during your workouts for just that accessory work, I think it can be an awesome way to build up lagging muscles. I think it can be a great way to to sort out imbalances. I really do. The more I train, the more into machines I get. I'm not ready to go hop on like the Ben Yanes, like machines are the only, like the only thing that you need to train. But I do think that they are a really valuable tool that should be used in most people's training.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. They're also they put much less stress on the muscle, so you can typically do more volume on a machine as well. So if you want to do some volume focused training, it can be a good option for you. So I think for me, it's probably in like the 80-20 free weights to machine, 70-30, somewhere in there. So, 4 out of every 5 exercises or so should trend towards that free weight option, but machines have a place.
Yeah, I'm with you.
All right, next one we're going to calorie counting versus intuitive eating for weight loss, weight maintenance, even weight gain or bulking up if that's the goal. And I'm going to take calorie counting here. So, I think especially if you're a person who's been intuitively eating your whole life and you have a specific goal around either putting on a bunch of muscle or losing some weight, that calorie counting can be incredibly important. It helps to be more precise, to have a better understanding of the foods that you're taking in, which will help you to better understand how that is impacting whether or not you're losing weight. It can help you come to some conclusions around where maybe your maintenance calories exist so that then you can track to either go above them if you're focused on building muscle or below them if you're focused on losing weight. Um, I think intuitively eating doesn't really offer the structure that counting the calories does, especially for people that are, like I said, have either struggled with weight loss in the past or have some really more specific goal. If you don't measure it, you can't really know where you need to be successful. So this offers that measurement opportunity. And then you can start to portion out your food, get a better understanding of it, and really ensure that what you're doing is in alignment with the goal that you're after.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, Dylan, where I think that argument falls short is when we're talking about real people here. Now, so well, it would be nice to every time that you put a scrap of food in your mouth, you instantly see, exactly how many calories, what the macro split is, and all that stuff. It is a lot of freaking work. And I think for most people, it is one of those things that is just not only is it not realistic for them, but for all of the people that might have an unhealthy relationship with food, it is something that actually, might be more detrimental than good here. Where what intuitive eating does is it promotes that more, that healthier, more sustainable relationship with food, and it reduces the restrictiveness of eating that a lot of people feel when they're counting calories. It focuses on hunger, it focuses on fullness cues, which just helps people be more mindful, and then can ultimately lead to healthier body weight over time. um, the thing that I like about intuitive eating is the fact that it is something that is sustainable. It's about long term adherence, because when we think about any of these lifestyle changes that people are making, whether it be in the gym or in the kitchen, it's about what you're able to do, not this week, not even this month, but what can you do, month after month, year after year. And intuitive eating is ultimately going to be where you want to side. I know personally, in talking to clients about this, people who have tracked, people who have failed tracking, clients who have shifted to that intuitive eating, they generally talk about how they're less stressed when it comes to their meals. They're enjoying food more, and it helps them stick to those healthy habits. So while I do think that there is a time and a place for calorie counting, I think ultimately uh, intuitive eating should be the goal that we all strive for.
Yeah, I just got the exit polling data, and it looks like the voters are heavily siding with you on this one.
Well, that's good. I needed that one.
So I think I agree with you. I think the majority of time the goal should be to be eating intuitively for all the reasons you stated. I do think for a season, whether it's a week, a couple days, a week, a couple weeks, especially if you have a weight loss goal, it can be really beneficial to do a little calorie counting, more for the education purposes than like the strict adherence or tracking, but just to better understand what the calorie components of foods are, the food decisions that you're making, and how that impacts your overall goal.
Yeah, and if you have a specific goal that you're shooting for, I mean, tracking is how you're going to get there quickly. Intuitive eating is where we want to end up ultimately, but a lot of times, a lot of times if you don't know anything, you got to start. You got to start by learning some things, and in by doing some tracking for a little while can be a good thing. The next thing that we got here is supplement use. I will take the side of supplements. And one of the best things that I can say about supplements is how well they just fill in the gaps, and that's right in the name. They supplement where our diet falls short, and anybody that is aware of what the modern American diet is understands that we are sorely short in a ton of micronutrients, and supplements are a really easy way to get there. And then you also think about all of the different, diets that are going on out there, vegetarians, vegans, just people with specific health needs, who might not be able to get all of their nutrients from food. So these supplements can be a really important way that they can, fill in those gaps in their diet. Um, I think that there are supplements, like creatine. I know that you and I both take creatine most days. You now that you've got your fancy gummies, maybe you can say that you take it every day. I try to take it most days. Maybe some protein powder, especially on training days. But we know what those supplements can do as far as muscle building and recovery, and now creatine. We even know the some of the cognitive benefits as far as like memory retention and some of those like anti-Alzheimer's markers that they're seeing show up in some of the tests that they're doing in seniors. So stuff like that should be a staple for a lot of people. But then, really, I do think that there's just there's also a certain level of funness that comes with your supplement stack and trying to figure out exactly what your body needs. But I think the most important thing to remember with these supplements is that you got to figure out what you're actually deficient in before you just take supplements. This is not going to be this is not a rant to just have you go out and buy whatever the salesman at GNC is selling, because they'll sell you everything that you can afford and more. I'm sure that they've got a GNC credit card now that you can put stuff on. But I think it's really important, especially like if you do go and get some blood work done, figure out the stuff that you are actually deficient in, and then tailoring supplements to those specific needs. It can be a huge help as far as filling in those gaps. So it's one of those things that certainly can feel a little scammy, because it is a billion-dollar industry without a ton of regulation. So you got to be careful who you're sourcing your supplements from, finding a company that you trust, talking to an expert. We've done a ton of research and tried a lot of ourselves, what supplement companies we trust and choose to buy from. But I do think that it's something that can have a really beneficial effect on people's lives if used correctly.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I disagree. I think there's
Okay.
there's there's two things that the American people prioritize above all else. One is finding good deals and buying things at a discount, and the other is quick fixes and immediate solutions to problems. And I think supplements present some risks in both cases. One, typically the discount, inexpensive supplements are the junk that you're talking about, the unregulated stuff. So to really get the benefit out of them, you have to be making sure what you're taking is quality. And on the latter point, I think that they come with this false sense of security or this excuse to not eat well and provide this feeling for people that because they're taking their supplements that they can sacrifice on the diet a bit. And really, whole foods is where we should be getting the majority of our vitamins, minerals, nutrients from. They offer much more comprehensive nutrient profiles. Our bodies absorb them better. They're what we know. Though our bodies know how to use the vitamins, minerals, and nutrients in that way. Um, and so I try to tend away from them. I think people as they get into them, they don't typically use them as supplements. They use them as all the times. And when you're using these things all of the time, it can lead to nutrient imbalances. It can even lead to toxicity in some cases, to your point. If you don't know what you're supplementing for and you start taking this stuff, too much of a good thing can become toxic to the body. So I would focus much more on the diet. I'm not opposed to figuring out where you have some deficits and supplementing with quality supplements to fill those gaps, but I would look to the diet first. So for me, I see a role for them to some degree, like you said, good whey protein on hand, take the creatine every day, supplement with vitamin D in the wintertime when it's dark all the time and you're not getting exposure to the sun. But beyond that, I think we really need to be thinking more about the food we're eating.
Yeah, this is a funny thing for me to argue, because I mean, the only supplement that I take regularly is creatine. Otherwise, I don't really take anything. Sometimes, I'll take a protein shake sometimes, if I need it. I have fish oil on hand, but we eat a lot. We eat a lot of tinned fish around here, so I don't really feel the need to supplement too heavily there. So yeah, I think this is an important one for people to understand that while there is value in supplements, they need to be just that. They need to be the afterthought. They need to be after you've taken care of all the other big rocks, then you can start to look at them. So I mean, this for me is like an easy like 90-10, even like 95-5
Yeah,
in
I
favor
agree.
of your argument there.
I
So
think,
so well done.
yeah, get your body weight in grams of protein, preferably from meat, quality meat sources. 3 servings of fruit, 3 servings of vegetables, a serving of legumes a day, and do that for a while, and then find out if you have nutrient gaps. And if you do, you could look to plug them with some supplements, but that's going to put you in that 90-10, 95-5 ballpark.
Yeah, for sure. Let's do a couple more here. What do you think? Like two more here?
Yeah, let's do 2 more. All right. Let's talk about. We got a few on the list. I'm gonna go with eating a very specific diet
Ooh.
versus focusing more on just a balanced, overall, more intuitive type diet. And this kind of plays into the calorie conversation. But I'll take the very specific diet side of things and let you talk about more of the
Okay. Cool.
standpoint. Um, I may end up on the losing side of this one, but I do think
Well,
that
we'll see.
I think there's some strong points to be made for finding a specific diet and adhering to it, especially if you've identified some sort of a health concern or you have some sort of health specific goal. Um, what I am not promoting or suggesting here is that we should be latching on to the newest fad diet we found, but rather identifying a specific diet that's in alignment with the goals that we have around our health and letting that be the guide for how we eat for a period of time to see if we can make some market improvement in how we're feeling, maybe in what our blood markers suggest. So there's some out there that may be beneficial. Um, and in those cases, I would look to those. I do think that people can benefit from having something to adhere to, something that's not going to allow them to maybe veer off or make a bad decision if they know that this is what they're after and they're more of a type A personality. It can be a good way to pursue a specific goal, to achieve a specific health improvement. And in those cases, I do think that finding a diet that's in alignment with your goal and sticking to it for a period of time, so long as you feel good and you're seeing the improvements that you're after, there can be a ton of benefit.
Yeah. There is only one diet out there that people should be following, and it is the diet that allows them to eat the foods that make them feel good and the foods that they enjoy. And as far as I'm concerned, I have not found a real like any one of these, fad diets or popular like quote unquote diets out there that that is flexible enough to allow people to enjoy the foods that they enjoy, to prioritize the things that they need to, and ultimately find that balance that not only is going to have them nutritionally satisfied, but also is going to have them enjoying that process, because we have this one life to live. And if you're sitting there watching your buddies eat pizza and chicken wings, and you can't have any because it doesn't fit into your diet, then I think that you are potentially missing one of the important aspects of the life that we get to live. So it is, if you have a balanced diet, you can have it all. You can literally eat your cake and have it too. You can
Have your cake and eat it too.
no. See, that's a misconception, though. It's eat your cake and have it too, because if you have your cake, then you get to eat it. So it's eat your cake, have it too. Um, at least I'm pretty sure.
Uh,
Anyways, um, it's one of those things where, yeah, as long as you're paying attention to the basics. So, like you just mentioned about, prioritizing that protein, getting those servings of fruits and vegetables, your legumes, making sure that you're hydrated. What else you do with your calories is really up to what works for your body. And all we're really looking for here is a sustainable, long term, not very restrictive diet that can be flexible. Because we want to make sure that we're not we're not the person that's going on vacation and then has to sit there at the restaurant and and brings their own. Have you seen this this new hack that some fitness influencers are doing, where they're bringing their own like ghee or grass-fed butters to restaurants and asking if the chef will cook their steak
Jesus,
in in their homemade beef tallow.
come on.
um I mean, like, yeah, I mean, it's douchebag central. And ultimately, like, it just can't, it can't be the way that we're living our lives.
Yeah, I think you're probably gonna get like 98 to 2% here. I will say if you are significantly overweight, if you are going to the doctor and consistently getting poor results as it relates to your blood markers and your health, and you've tried to eat a balanced, more intuitive diet in alignment with all the points that you made, and it's still not working out for you, that in those cases, it may be worth considering if trying something more specific is what you need to get on track. But otherwise, for the majority of people, I'm in total agreement with your points.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's one of those things that obviously there's going to be situations for everybody where for certain people that have to adhere to very specific things. For the majority of us, it's about finding that balance. So, all right, one more point here. I'm gonna go with functional fitness versus bodybuilding. I'm gonna take the side of functional fitness here. And really, when I think about why we train, why we're exercising, it is to get the most out of our bodies. It's to feel our best. It's to do cool shit. And functional fitness focuses on those movements that not only are going to look cool and are going to allow you to do, the cool things, to run the trail races, to do the triathlons, whatever the case may be. Um, it's also just going to have you feeling good. It's going to have you getting out of bed in the morning and not, grabbing at your knee or your low back or, whatever's aching because you had leg day yesterday and now sitting down on the toilet hurts. These are exercises that are meant to still build strength, still build muscle, but are meant to translate into real life movements and athletic performance. So the other thing that I really like about that functional fitness is the emphasis on supporting joint health, that mobility aspect. Doing some of these movements that step out of the sagittal plane, just moving straight forward and backwards. Adding some rotation, adding some side to side, some lateral movements into it, and really, using our bodies the way that they're meant to be used, and really looking at this training as a foundation for your all around fitness, for your for making yourself not just stronger and obviously looking better, and trust me, like, if you do functional fitness, you can get jacked. This is not to say that that this is not going to include that as well, but it's going to get you jacked and feeling good about it too. So really, I think that there is so much value in the functional fitness world, um, that I don't even know. I don't even know if you need to do any sort of like bodybuilding training.
Yeah, I disagree with that last point significantly.
I thought you would.
It's not going to get you jacked. It could get you stronger. But if you really want to prioritize building muscle, if you want to prioritize aesthetics, if you want to lose weight, we've talked about the benefits of building muscle as an important baseline for encouraging that weight loss process that you've really got to be focused on. Not necessarily bodybuilding, but I'll call it strength and hypertrophy. More traditional kind of weightlifting type movements. It's going to offer you a balanced and structured approach to addressing all of the major muscle groups. It's going to help you to build symmetrical strength. And I think progressive overload, the goal of building muscle, really offers a very important structure and discipline around goal setting that helps with adherence to the modality of exercise, but also has the potential to spill over into other self-improvement areas of life. So I think there's a role for what you're talking about for sure. You don't want to be a buff guy who can't move his neck. But I do think that prioritizing strength and hypertrophy, building muscle, getting stronger, looking better, is really critically important to that strength training journey.
Yeah, I think this is a good one to end it on because truthfully, I feel like the optimal training falls right in the middle. For me, this is straight up 50-50. I do not want to, we've done, you and I, that's how, we really got started, like getting back into shape was with those, quote unquote, like functional fitness, those audit programs that we ran back in the day. But, I think that you would agree that we both, started seeing way more progress as far as our physique was concerned and really just like how we felt when we transitioned into some of those more traditional strength training, bodybuilding movements. So I think that the optimal programming, obviously, like your goals are super important. If you're an athlete, training for a very specific thing, you probably are going to lean a little bit more into those, the functional side of things. If you are, somebody struggling with self-confidence and wanting to, lose some of the fat or, just get that body recomposition, then yeah, you're probably going to focus a little bit more on the bodybuilding type programs. But at the end of the day, there's so much value in both of them. And for me, I love a good program that, in training schedule that gets me a balance of both of these things.
Yeah, so I don't know who won the selection, you or I. I think really all of us won. Um, and that's really the whole point of this podcast. So yeah, we're gonna watch these election results come in over the next few days. Um, Hopefully, whoever wins the election, we all win in that regard as well. We can get the best out of whoever that candidate is in the interest of all people. And hug your loved ones, be kind to people. Like life matters so much more in the micro than it does this macro stuff. So probably a stressful time for a lot of people, but we can be good to each other outside the context of Twitter and the media and all this stuff that's shoved down our throats and these pamphlets we've been getting in the mail for weeks. So um,
Yeah. And if you are unhappy with the results, whichever way they may have fallen, and you need to get your cry on while you're also pumping some iron, have I got a song for you? Because it is time for the I Lift a Sad Song of the Week. And Dylan, this is one I sent it to you. I sent it to you right before we started recording because I'm not sure I'm not sure if you've heard this one before. This is from the Cold War Kids, their 2017 album. It's called "Can We Hang On." It is an incredible lifting sad song. Highly, highly recommend. And now you'll be able to find it on the I Lift a Sad Songs playlist.
Never heard it. I'll have to give it a go. And for those that are wondering why we skipped the Q&A tonight, it's because the top question that kept coming through was, who did you guys vote for? And we're not fucking touching that. So that's it for
Exactly.
tonight.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time.